everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Lowell Area Historical Museum Oral History Project, where residents tell their story about Lowell life. Today is July 21, 2021, and we are on the north of Lowell on the eastern shore of Murray Lake with Mr. Mike Stevens here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Well, to get things started, can we have your full name? And you
Yeah.
probably don't want to tell when you were born. But.
Michael A. Stevens, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S, born 8/21/42.
Okay. Kind of, since we're with a museum, we kind of like to know more a little historical background. Maybe your family, were they immigrants? Did your great-grandfather, grandmother come across from wherever? Or?
Yes. Well, this place was strictly on my mother's side, is where it came from. And my grandfather, Anthony Vandervelde, was born in 1875.
Okay.
Lived in Grand Rapids and out here summers his whole life. He worked for Grand Rapids Store Equipment, but was also an inventor, somewhat successfully. And
Did he patent anything?
Oh yeah, he sold a patent that measured cloth in the old days when cloth was sold in bolts, and it measured the amount, the distance, and the price, and the whole thing. And he sold that and bought a house, so he did all right with that.
Okay.
And my father died when I was 7, and he became kind of a father figure. I mean, at least a guide, which was great. But anyway, my mother met my father, who was had a degree from Ohio State in engineering, and he worked for Goodyear, and they met here. I'm not sure how, whether there was must have been a Goodyear store here. And then they married and moved to Akron, Ohio, which was the center for Goodyear. And then I was born in 42. My older brother was born in 37, just the two of us. But my grandparents were, my grandfather was pure Dutch, and my grandmother always said she was polyglot. She was a mix of everything.
Aren't we all, I think?
Aren't we all? Yes. My father was pure Irish. Yeah. So he was, my father or grandfather would love fishing. It was a big deal for him. So he fished, as you'll see in some of these photo albums, fishing at different lakes and so on. And it came out here. Yeah. And again, well before my time, but apparently fell in love with the place and bought this piece of property in 1919. But he bought the front 2.5 acres, but he had no access. So he couldn't get in from there. And this land back here was owned by 3 siblings. I couldn't tell you their names. But he told the story of he'd go to one sibling and he'd agree to sell it, and then one of the other 2 would not. And this went on for some time. And finally, he got the 3 of them together and had a briefcase that he had filled with all silver coins. And I believe the amount was $300. Wow. So they were sitting down, and he opened it up and dumped the money out on the floor, and they all agreed to sign, and that's how he picked up the back 12 acres back here. So we had access from Lally.
Okay.
So the property was 16 acres. He gave 2 acres to his son, which is if you went straight down the driveway. Okay. So it's a fairly large piece of property out here, I believe his parents were born here, but his grandparents were not. They came from the Netherlands. So, and my father, same thing with my father. His parents were born here, but his grandparents came from Ireland. So, so yes.
So you're Dutch and Irish, basically.
Dutch and Irish, 56% Irish. So.
I'm Swiss and German.
Yes.
Swiss and Irish and a little bit of Scottish. So
okay.
Not bad. Yeah, you and I have been out here for Well, I've been here since 56. You've been here, so we've seen a lot of changes
Yes.
over the years out here as kids growing up.
And that's the thing, I'm sorry, I neglected, is my mother's family, her parents and her sister were here, and her brother. So what we would do, because my father traveled a lot, is my mother would come up here to stay the summer with us as little kids.
Right.
And that went on forever. So until then, I think we moved here finally in 1953 or something
53.
like that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we did. We moved out on Memorial Day,
Okay.
spent the summer, and then on Labor Day we moved back into Lowell.
Yes. Okay.
So,
yeah.
you know, we spent the summers out here just like you did.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
And like you said, we've seen a lot of changes. I mean, I can remember when there was no houses on Burdaki when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
It was
Exactly.
just a swamp. What lake looked like when you came out here as a kid?
Well, vacant.
Vacant, yeah. Well, you were the only year-rounder pretty much, maybe, other than...
No, we weren't year-rounder. This was strictly
Cottage?
a summer
Okay.
place.
So Bob Croft probably was the first
Bob
year-rounder.
was there was one other guy on the other side of the island who
Okay.
had a year-round house.
All right.
But I think that was it.
That was it. Two
You know,
people.
two people, and
people.
but yeah, out here, some, and again, it was a quarter of a mile this way before there was a house. It was the place here was my uncle's, and he was never out there, and there was Bob over there, and I don't know if there's anything over there. We used to, my brother and I, before you thought about pollution and stuff, but we'd take empty ketchup bottles and anything with a lid on it, mustard, whatever, we'd throw them off the end of the dock and then shoot them with our 22s.
Yeah.
We would end the lives of several people on the island if we did that today.
I know. Well, when you were a kid and you looked across from here, the island was
Just an
it
island.
was a field. It was
Yeah,
and supposedly, you know, my grandfather brought cows over there and they grazed in the
Yeah.
early.
Now is that Carl or is that Chris?
Croft, or Fred Croft, that lived in the Lally House.
Oh, okay.
on the corner.
Oh, okay.
They rented that in 1897 till
Okay.
1922,
All right.
and they would bring the cows across, and then they would.
I remember my mother
graze.
talking about that. Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Some of your favorite childhood stories out here growing up.
Oh, geez.
I'm sure I've talked to you numerous times, and you've told me some good ones. But
Yeah.
you probably got a couple that you probably would like to share.
Well, my grandfather, there's a swamp out here, and my grandfather always was kind of interested in that. So he built an 80-foot dock that just went straight out. In fact, he's got a little poem he wrote called the Dock That Nowhere Went. and at that time, the swamp was a lot wetter than it is now.
Yeah.
And as kids, my brother and I would go out there, and invariably one of us would push the other in, and then he'd push the other one, each other, and then come back up and say, "Look, Mom," and we're just all.
Covered in.
And she sent us to the lake. That's where we took all our baths, was in the lake,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
we had a toilet, but we didn't have anything else. So and then we'd go on. Chuck McDonald became, as my mother called him, her third son.
Okay.
And he was really around here an awful lot, and we'd go out with our BB guns and go frog hunting and get
Yep.
frog legs and catch a snake or two and
Yeah. Turtles.
turtles. We used to have milk delivered, and the milkman complained about getting bottles with snakes in them and things of that sort. And finally, he just dumped them out, and we found a dead snake or two under the refrigerator, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's what I remember too. Always just catching turtles, and because there was so much swamp area.
Oh
around
yes,
here that
you could
spend hours just collecting.
go out in a canoe with a
Yeah.
with
Oh
a-
yeah. I had a little 3-horse Elgin with a wraparound motor that
Oh yeah,
I'd pull and get going, and that was my transportation.
But yeah, my grandfather had a big rowboat, and we had a 18-foot Old Town canoe, which those were our two
Okay.
bashes of motivation out there. Again, depending on what age you're talking about.
Right.
When we got to, I think when I got to 12 or 13, we got little racing boats and things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
Kind of
With
stuff.
the little the old pointed wood seats.
Yes.
When you bounced around in the waves, your teeth would go up through the top of your mouth.
Exactly.
You remember the lady who ran the marina before Conley's was Mrs.
Roth?
Reed?
Reed, Mrs.
Mrs.
Reed.
Reed.
Yes,
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
the middle pits and the,
Yeah.
she used to have the pike heads above the doors with the flared out gills.
Yes, yes.
And you'd be scared, 8, 9-year-old kid walking in there, you'd be scared to death. I wouldn't swim for 2 or 3 days after that, but
You could, at that time, you could buy gas down there that was already mixed. You
Yeah.
could pull your boat up and they'd fill that up. And Mrs.
Conley's
Reed-
had that. Yep. And
Do you
then,
remember the Wassners that had the root beer stand up here?
No, but I remember the stand. That when I was a kid, that was still that was closed. It never opened.
Oh,
but
really?
it was still there in the corner.
And she was up there, and I'd ride my bike up there, and they had the frosted root beer mugs,
Okay.
and you could get a fried hot dog, and it turned out she was a coin collector, and so was I.
Really?
So I'd ride up there and spend maybe an hour or two with her going over coins.
Coins and stuff.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I remember that building, but it was never open.
Yeah, that was. I assume it was open for at least a.
Now, was the
couple-
public accesses open when you
No,
were a kid?
no public
Those hadn't been. Lally hadn't sold those yet.
No.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I was going to say 57, but I don't know whether that's right or not.
That's
but,
probably right. Mid-50s, I would imagine.
But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of great stories. A lot
Yes.
of great stories. But like you say, Bob Croft had the horses on the island. We were kids growing up. Had the horses over there. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we've known the Croft family. I'd met Chris
Right.
Croft one time, and Jenny up there when
Okay.
they were up there,
Yeah.
and I found Chris. I'm a little kid, but I found Chris to be absolutely fascinating.
He was.
He'd swear, which I thought was
yeah.
really exciting. And then Jenny was cooking on a wood stove, and I don't know if he chewed tobacco or not or what, but he'd spit over there, and the
he'd
spit
sizzle.
would sizzle and turn into
Sizzle on the
steam.
thing. Yeah.
And I thought, this guy's neat.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I heard stories. He was known for his swearing. I guess when they used to plow, you could hear him out there
Oh, really?
just cussing away, I guess, out in the fields.
And we used to have, not we, but my parents and grandparents used to have mail delivered to Chris.
Okay.
And then we'd go up there and pick it up.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and then they had a big water tank that we'd go up and swim in. Yeah. It was just fun to do, and
Did they have quite a lot of the orchards back then when you were a kid?
this was my whole life. This was
all
orchard.
orchard, right.
Well, it was corn at one time, but I don't
Okay.
know. It could have been for 1 year. I don't know what, but and I remember we got it. When Carl was active and alive, and he had a barn with all the straw in it, and
Right.
we got in that, and we built a fort and tunnels.
Tunnels, oh yeah.
And then Carol came out and said, "You GD kids, get out!" I honest to God, I thought it was the Marine Corps that was after me, and we had to jump like 5 feet to get down. But did we run? He
Oh,
was
yeah. Oh,
he
yeah.
was really scary.
He was, he was a character,
As
well
I,
known.
as I grew up, it was fun because I was a liberal Democrat. He was a conservative, and I grew a giant zoo. For his 75th birthday, I gave him 3 things. I gave him a Ferraro Mondale sign as one gift because of his support for women's rights.
Okay.
You know, I gave him a bag of Washington apples so he'd know what a good apple tasted like. And then I gave him a picket sign from a strike that we'd had, because of his support for unions.
You're terrible. You're terrible. You're terrible.
But we got along.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He
Oh
loved it.
yeah.
It
He was.
fun. So
Yeah.
I went from being terrified to the man
Yeah.
of enjoying him.
Yeah.
You know,
There's still a lot of stories about Carl and Chris, the old timers, and the.
somewhere there's a picture of Roger Croft and I with boxing gloves on, and we're both about 8.
But, okay.
You know.
Well, I'll probably come across that when I,
I
go
don't
through
listen
some of
there,
these old,
but anyway.
these old photos. So, any other good stories you can think of, maybe around the lake that you were growing up? I know that root beer stand. I wish we needed to come out here a few years earlier for that.
We'd come out in the winter sometimes, and how good a story this is, and where we park, I guess, someplace on the island. And it was always scary, at least as kids, to walk across the ice.
Yeah.
I think it was absolutely safe, but it would creak,
Yeah.
you know, and just terrify you.
Yeah, you get that when it makes ice. It goes like.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody you get somebody out here that's never been through that, and it scares them half to death when they go all the way across.
Yes,
Across the
yes. I'm just trying to think about. I'm sure there are
there's
20 more, but
I remember as a kid coming out in the winter that we only had a few times. So remember when we get the quick freezes and it was that black ice, you could see right through it,
oh yeah,
right
yeah.
down to the bottom, and then you could skate the whole lake.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you'd get my sister and I used to put blankets between us
Okay.
and let the wind as a sail, and whew, we go.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
we go flying
okay.
down there. So yeah. So well, yeah.
There really are just are wonderful memories, and what honestly has happened, which sounds strange, but this place after all that time has just truly become a part of me.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's something that defines me.
Yeah.
And when I get out of work and hit the driveway, as soon as I turn in, I could just feel
Your
myself.
whole body goes down. Well, we like you said before we started here, we're going through some of the old pictures and got to see the process of, you know, when you bought the property and how your grandfather started building. So I've seen the whole process of how this house was built from the 1919 to now.
We have a mirror with a open house, January 1920, you know, which is
So, yeah, it's amazing. It's an unbelievable piece of property out here.
so it's 100 years in the family, and yeah, that's.
So. I know you and I were teachers at Kennewatt, so we have a little
right. Yes,
a little
we do.
history with us. I think you moved on to be a union rep before I came in, but
I was there from 66 to 73.
okay. See, I came in '87, so you were long gone. But I know you represented the union well for us over the years.
Thank you. I got in some trouble, and yes.
Yeah, well, you know, it happens.
No,
Any new exciting things happening now? Just relaxing and enjoying.
Karen Chapman is one of the.
Okay.
We've been together 16 years, and we just got married last year. So we
Oh,
thought that was a long enough
know that.
engagement.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know you got married. That's cool.
We did it in the front yard with a guy I'd worked with, who with a huge group of 8 of us.
Okay.
With the COVID
Yeah.
thing, and the dogs running back and forth
Yeah.
in front of the.
Well, I know you and I have been talking about this for like a year and a half with the COVID thing.
Yeah.
We finally got a chance to get together and get this done because I wanted to get some old pictures and stuff for the lake. So,
Okay.
well, we thank you, Mike, for your time and your
Sure.
stories, and I'm sure we missed many, many more stories, but at least we got a little taste of what it was like to live on Murray Lake.
Oh yeah, and it was. Well, I mean, just other. You could go out on the end of the dock at night and lie down, and there was very little light, so
Yeah.
you could see
See
the
the
heavens.
stars.
You could.
All right.
There were deer around and I mean, there are now, but there
Well,
were.
you
there were
told
more.
me about your 3-hole outhouse too that you
Oh
had
yes,
as a kid.
I still have
The 3 holes.
Yes, it was called.
We had an outhouse too. I remember.
Used to be called Tipperary. It was a
Yeah.
long way to
Oh, yeah.
Tipperary. It was right up there.
You used to be scared to death to go out there at night.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my gosh, as a kid, the spider webs hit you in the face when you go through the door. And
We've still got a Thunder mug that we used to use, for
did you use the Sears and Roebuck catalog for toilet paper? No. Okay.
I think we splurged.
All right. Well, we thank Mike once again from the museum and helping us out with our oral history project, and keep an eye out for some new and more interesting more interviews coming up.
Dale, thank
in
you
the
for
near
doing
future.
this. I
You
think
bet.
it's a great service.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.